Hello Guild Wars 2 gamers, Mucklick here, and today is another episode of I Tried, where I tried a build that was actually shoved in my face by our wonderful Hungarian video editor Noxxi. Say hi, Noxxi. And we are going to be attempting the HARBINGER. Why is this suddenly a thing? Recently, with a rework to Transfusion, they took away its ability to transfuse. So now it's excellently named. And now it is basically staff rework. So when you use this trait, it makes the Necromancer's staff a very different tool, one that is mostly for support. So for example, if I use staff 2, Mark of Blood on myself, we get regen, we get vigor. Staff 3 is a massive heal and it gives prot. And it still does all the stuff it did before, but now you can cast it on their allies and just get boons out of it. So first off, let's show you the build and then I'll show you some examples of it in action. So this is the build right here. We have got Blood Magic, Soul Reaping, Harbinger, Blood Magic, Ritual of Life, Well of Blood, and Lesser Well of Blood can revive people, Life from Death, Big Heal when you leave Shroud, Transfusion makes the staff a support weapon, Soul Reaping, Soul Marks makes the staff attacks unblockable, and they generate more life force, which is honestly doesn't really feel needed. Your life force never goes below like 90%. Shroud skills gain reduced recharge, you gain some more vitality and healing, maximum life force increased, gain life force when you're out of combat. So you notice like right now my life force is up to here, so like if I use some life force up here, and I'm just going to let it tick down for a minute, and then it will... Oh, I guess I should let it go down even further. Hang on a second. So if your life force is essentially below, I think it's like 75%, and you're not in Shroud, it will regen back up to that marker. There you go. You can see it going up a little bit right there. So it just makes it to where you don't ever have to start a fight with 0. And then in the Harbinger line, we've got Elixirs now grant protection, and because of Twisted Medicine, Elixirs now also grant their boons to allies, so that protection along with whatever else is on here should also go to allies, and then also Deathly Haste, grant boons to yourself and nearby allies when you are in Harbinger Shroud. So just fury and quickness. So Harbinger, odd choice for a support class. The main mechanic of Harbinger is they reduce their own maximum health each second they're in Shroud in order to roid out. How on earth is that going to be a good support? Well, first of all, they got access to drugs. They hung out with engineers too much, and they've got one of the coolest elites in the game, which is Elixir of Ambition. When you use Elixir of Ambition, it gives the group every freaking boon in the game. So imagine your support is a Harbinger, you run in, you start a fight, and he does this. Blah! There's no ramp up time. You start out at max power 1 second into the fight. That is their niche. That's a them thing, okay? After that, you basically use these two on cooldown. This one gives swiftness and quickness and prot. This one gives might and fury and prot. Okay? Use staff 2 and 3 on cooldown. They both do healing in an area. 3 does more healing in an area. Staff 2 does regen and vigor. Staff 3 does prot, and they both do healing. Again, 3 does more healing. So you're hitting 2 and 3 every time they light up. You're hitting these two every time they light up. All right? So do. You can hit the elite every time it lights up, or just use it for the opener and then save it for moments when you need to do Aegis or stability or refresh all the boons. Okay? So right now, I'm doing those two, and these, and also Well of Blood. All right, next thing. Anytime you can, enter Shroud, hit 4 and 5, and then leave. That's it. It's a bunch of CC, and I forgot to go over relics. I'll do that in a second. It is triggering a relic effect that gives more fury and might. So that is the gist of it here. So if you do those things, you are doing a lot of healing when you land the 4, and you're doing a lot of healing when you leave Shroud. You're doing a lot of healing when you do staff 2 and 3, and also you have a massive healing skill on Well of Blood when you need to do that as well. This will keep up quickness, vigor, swiftness, regeneration, fury, might, protection, and it even helps keep up every other boon in the game somewhat, because every 60 seconds you can provide 10 seconds of alacrity, resistance, stability, Aegis, things like that. Those are all on Elixir of Ambition, because Elixir of Ambition gives everything. So next thing, let's do adjust environment and add toggle pulsing damaging area. All right, moderately threatening is a damage area equal to most fights in the game. All right, so we're gonna run in here, and I'm gonna be like, all right, I just gave my group every boon in the game, and then we're going to drop some of these, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and this. We've got every freaking boon in existence. We're pumping out those heals. And if you'll look, even though I've reduced my maximum health due to Harbinger Blight stacks, I still have 20k. That's 2 Weavers. That is still more than enough for someone who's new to playing the game to play this healing class and still be doing great. Now, because I'm trying to play and talk at the same time, my might is slipping a little bit. It went under 25 briefly. This build can keep up 25 stacks of might. It is a bit tight, but when you're in a group, it pretty much never goes below 25 might because typically there's other DPS that are doing a few might stacks here and there, and it tops it off. So, lots of healing, every boon in the game, all the boons you're in charge of stay up, and you are sitting real pretty with your 20k hit points. Additionally, I'm in full Harrier gear. Let's talk about the gear because I forgot to earlier. I'm in full Harrier with the exception of the staff is Minstrels. So we've got a little bit of tankiness on the staff, concentration and transference on the staff, runes of the month. This is the glass cannon gear. We got 27k health. If you run full Minstrels, you have like 33,000 hit points. That's 3 Weavers. And that is before blighting yourself. After you blight yourself, you'll be around 2 to 2.5 Weavers, but that's still crazy. And we're using Relic of the Midnight King. Relic of the Midnight King gives 3 stacks of might and 1 stack of fury when you CC something. So right now, I only have alacrity on myself from the console. Let's go into this, and I use the 4. Boom, there's might and some fury, and then I use the 5, and it does 3 more stacks of might and fury, and again, 3 stacks of might and fury. Now, the 5 does 3 ticks of CC, but there's a 1-second internal cooldown on the relic. So if you do 4-5, it will do 4 CCs, but because of the internal cooldown, it'll trigger this 3 times. So just anytime you can, enter Shroud, 4-5, leave Shroud. That's it. You don't have to sit in Shroud. You don't have to use the 2 and the 3 unless you want to, but you just enter Shroud, 4-5, leave Shroud, okay? And that's it. Now, additionally, let's do this just to leave combat. I mentioned that the healing on this is pretty freaking solid. So I'm gonna do adjust environments, turn off the damage field, turn it back on as extremely threatening. And I accidentally just used my Elixir of Ambition there. There's a bug in here where the Mushroom King's Blessing is supposed to reset all your cooldowns for doing testing. And sometimes, oh, it worked. While I was talking, I hit it and it didn't work, and just now it did. Fantastic. So it is unreliable with this skill. I don't know why, but moving on. So we're gonna run into this extreme damage field. I'm just gonna dodge roll in. I'm gonna do this and this and this and this and this and this, and then I'm gonna go into this and I'm gonna do the 4 and do the 5 and leave Shroud. It tops off the health bar. I'm gonna do 2. I'm gonna do Well of Blood, Well of Power just to help with the might stacks, and just auto attack a little bit, and then the 2 and the 3, and then we're gonna go into Shroud, and then we're gonna 4 and then leave Shroud again. We're full health again. When I tried the extreme damage field as a newbie Tempest Oromancer, I couldn't stay on my feet. I buckled and fell immediately just because their hit points are so low. On this character, in full Harrier's gear, the glass cannon healing gear, I'm doing okay, and I haven't used Well of Blood yet. I could, right now, right now may be good. I might use that right now just to top off, but I, as a newbie of this class, am able to heal extreme damage field, which is doing more damage to my group than the, what is it called? Than like any raid or strike mission fight does. And I'm new to this, and I could not do this on like Tempest. So it's pretty nice. This is pretty nice. So let's talk about why would you ever want to play this? What can it do? What can it not do? All right, let's be honest here, okay? So main points. The Healbinger. It provides all essential boons. Might is tight. All right, if you're playing perfectly, you're just barely gonna keep up those 25 stacks of might. If you slip up and make mistakes, the might starts slipping. However, this is often unnoticed in groups because of many DPS will randomly provide a couple of stacks of might around them and they won't even notice it. But again, if you play perfectly, it's not even a problem as long as you're hitting those buttons every time they light up. You have access to stability every 15 seconds with Alacrity. The new Staff 5 gives 3 stacks of stability for 8-second duration with an 18-second cooldown before Alacrity. So you can save your Staff 5 for when you need to do CC, because it's still the fear that it always was, or you can save it to give your group stability, and again, very short cooldown. That is a really short cooldown for stability. Like, you know, Druid and Tempest have a longer cooldown on their stabs for their like 1-button thing. And keep in mind, if you only use Elixir of Ambition for the opener, you can also then save it after the opener for when you need any specific boon. Stability, Aegis, whatever, and then just blah. And again, it's everything. This is anything you need on demand after you use it for the opener. But the opener is very cool too, because your whole group has no ramp up time and gets access to everything right when the fight starts. So that's the next thing. It does have lower access to condition cleansing than some of its competitors. So what do I mean by that? So if I'm running this build, Well of Power is a flex slot, but if you don't have anything else, put Well of Power there. It helps with the might upkeep. It does some condition cleansing on your group. With Alacrity, every 16 seconds, you throw this down and it lasts 5 seconds, and it does condition cleansing and might gen. Please note the stability that is on that tooltip is for you only, not your party. I've seen a lot of people get confused about that. The stability is self only. It's also a stun break. If you happen to be CC'd right when it's about time to hit Well of Power, it'll snap you out of it, which is nice. The other condition cleanse is Staff 4. Staff 4 is 15-second cooldown before Alacrity, and it with the trait of the new transfusion, it removes 3 conditions from all allies in an area, and it also does the original effect, which is to take a number of conditions on you and send them to your enemy. So on you, it should remove 3 conditions, and then if there's more, it'll take 3 more and shoot them at that guy. For your teammates, it removes 3 conditions. Other things, now again, comparing it to, like, let's say Scourge support, which is Alacrity, not Quickness, so that's kind of different. Scourge, if they're just using their Shroud buttons, they're what is it, F2? I think it's F2. I'll be corrected in the comments. Cures a condition like every 4 seconds, like for the whole team. It's it's very carpal tunnel, but they have a lot more cleansing than this does, for example. But we do have more than enough cleansing for most fights in the game. You might move some things around if you were doing something with really, really heavy amounts of conditions, like Slothosaur, or gosh, what is another one that's heavy conditions? The Soulless Horror, that is another one as well. But those are just a couple of examples. High DPS for a healer. Okay, now DPS is not something at the top of the list of what you should care about as a healer, but it is on the list. It is much further down on the list, but it's on the list because if you're keeping up with their healing and you're keeping up the boons, the last thing is make the fight shorter, less time for people to make mistakes. And this can do that. When you are attacking the thing, you're hitting it, you're keeping your boons on it, and then you're just you can do that during weird positions. Like if I'm in Whisper of Jormag and I have to kill my clone, no problem. I was able to annihilate my clone, stuff like that. It was no problem at all. Another thing I'll show is, did you, let me show you something here. Something I forgot to mention. So you see, I'm blasting this guy right now. Do you see the healing? Do you see that? That's not regen. I don't have regen right now. There is a trait in here, and I am going to see if I can find it. Heal each second for each stack of Blight you have. Now, you routinely will have about 20 stacks of Blight, and that will still leave you with 20,000 hit points, okay? That results in almost 1k healing per second all the time. And that means that on top of having really high life, you've got really high constant self-healing when you're not trying. So again, that's a noob-friendly thing, So that's just a nice perk. You've just got giga regen going all the time on yourself that stacks with your regen. That's pretty neat, actually. Has one of the strongest openers in the game. Your group gets every boon in the game at the start of the battle, if you use the elite skill. Shroud 3 and 4 give mobility if you need to reposition when you are visiting Shroud. So every 10 seconds or so, you go into Shroud, and you do 4, which moves to your target cursor, and then you do 5, which is around you. Also, the 3 is a straight line dash. So the 3 and the 4 move your position, and you can use those. Again, every 10 seconds you're going into Shroud, and you can reposition at the same time for no extra cost. It's free real estate. You can just do that, and it's totally fine. The last thing is, although Necromancer is not the god of revives it once was, it is still much better than many of its competitors. So it has access to last rites, which means as long as you're standing, anyone around you that goes downstate doesn't bleed out. So if you just consider the fact that they're not dropping in health as being countered by you raising that same amount, you're actually doing quite a bit of HPS to downstate people in the zip code around you with no effort. And then on top of that, when you start reviving someone who's downstate, you trigger Lesser Well of Blood, which 30-second ICD, and that will start reviving anyone in the area around the downstate person, and healing the people that are standing around that person. And then you could also use your own Well of Blood. So you've got 2 active revive tools and 1 passive one. So if you run up to like a pile of people and you just do manual Well of Blood and start reviving, which will trigger Lesser Well of Blood, that is the classic double well pile that will help you revive the whole stack of people. Or, again, if there's just one person down, you could just do it on one person, but those are options. Now you could get rid of Well of Power in this build and run some other options. Hang on just a second. I need to leave combat, so we're going to unsummon the Golem here. And so Well of Power, again, is a flex slot. If you're in a fight where you need to get rid of projectiles, Corrosive Poison Cloud is good for that. I used it on Dagda during one of the strikes today. If you need a pull, you could take Spectral Grasp. If you needed a long-range revive, you could take Signet of Undeath. However, the passive of Signet of Undeath is really going to do nothing for you. It gives you passive life force generation in combat. I never got below like 80% life force, because you dip into Shroud, fire off a few abilities, and leave Shroud, and it's just, you go from like 100 to 90 and then back up to like 100, and that's it. And I think that is basically everything. So if you're comparing this to all of the other quickness providing healers, it has some pros, it has some cons. I'm actually surprised at how okay it was. You know, when I first was told about healing Harbinger, I'm like, why would you ever do that? It's like the Harbinger is just like, oh yeah, I poisoned myself and lower my max hit points. And I was just like, why would I ever? But I didn't really think about like how much their max HP was. It's like even after they blight themselves, they still got 20k. They're still almost double a Weaver. And so and you've also got the massive constant self-regen from the blight mechanic. So it's like you're always like 20k or more max hit points. You're always self-healing for 1k or more HP. You can give every boon in the game. Very strong opener. Very short cooldown access to stability. And you got a flex slot that you can change if you need to. This was not bad. I would almost even say this is low intensity as far as like how easy it was to learn. You hit the potions at the start of the fight. Then you just hit these whenever they light up. Unless you swap this for something else, you hit these two whenever they light up, save these for when you need it, Condi Cleanse, Stability, or Fear, and anytime this lights up, you go in, 4-5, and leave. Congrats, you've mastered Healbinger. You're welcome. If you want even more advanced tips and tricks on Healbinger, I will link Noxxi's guides in the comment section down below who came up with this. I want to stress, as always, I am not saying this is the best in the game, but it sure is viable. It is absolutely viable, and I think that 95 to 98% of the content in this game could be cleared with this as your support. And it's pretty fun, it's pretty noob friendly, it's pretty, easy to learn, it's not really hard on the wrists, and I think that's it. Yeah.